opinions, commentary only. I can't stress this enough. None of this is medical advice. We will be talking about a lot of medical subjects. I'm going to repeat this like every 5 minutes to the point where a lot of you probably will be annoyed with it. So I'm apologizing now in advance. This is not medical advice. I am not a doctor. I am not a doctor. I am not a doctor. So many trolls. I predict it right now. So many people are going to come in here, hear the subject matter, and ask me, are you a doctor? Where do you get your MD? Are you a doctor? Are you a doctor? And what I have to say to that is, thank goodness there's moms like me out there doing the work, spreading the words, because you all are getting this information from us. And I'm not saying it's like that all the time with medicine, but you'll get like if you hear me out, if you can actually hear me out and not side with the side of big pharma, that's like I'm not saying that none of their medicine ever did anything good, but they definitely cherry pick the studies that they use to prove they are good, until something so bad happens so many times that they get recalled. And like if you've been around any certain amount of time, you'll see like why some people may not trust them. That's not to say that they do not have life-saving medicines that should be trusted when they are needed. Okay. So like I am not anti modern medicine at all. I'm like, and I don't even want to go into medicine that much in this discussion. Trump did, and that's what we're going to touch upon. But I can't stress that enough. I'm not a doctor. I know I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I have been through so much in my adulthood as a mother. I was injured by preventative medicine in 2009 H1N1 FLU vaccine. I was 23 years old, like 22 years old, and I know from the experience with that and everything I went through, so many and with my children, which I've never really said much about my children besides like my youngest son is definitely nonverbal on the autism spectrum. And like I don't want to talk much about my children and that's their story, but like I divulge that because it's like I'm just gonna say it. Honestly, he is so delayed, like it is what it is. I don't know if I would call him severe, but he's definitely between like moderate and severe in my opinion. And so anyways, I don't want to get into that much. I just want to preface it with I know I'm not a doctor, okay? I know I'm not a freaking doctor, but I have a lot to lend to this conversation because 10 years ago, we were learning about Tylenol in the autism biomedical community. 10 years ago. And it had already been a thing for like 10 years before that. I am not a doctor, and I know I'm not a doctor. I don't even want to look at the comments because I know that's what people are going to start saying. Like, you have to bow down to the almighty doctor because they save us all the time, right? Anybody who's had actual medical issues, like I have too, like, yes, definitely. There are doctors who save lives every single day. So I am not trying to discredit that at all. But like, I wouldn't put my lives in their hands unless it was an emergency situation. I had to beg for a hysterectomy when I was fighting a precancerous condition for 10 years. After 5 years, I started asking for a hysterectomy. They said it has to become invasive cancer in order to give me one. What? Like, so anyways, I had to fight for diagnoses of certain conditions. Like one was my inguinal hernia. They kept misdiagnosing me. No, I'm sorry, I don't trust doctors. They couldn't diagnose a freaking hernia. Okay. So, anyways, this is about an announcement that the Trump administration made today. And I am not a doctor. I am not trying to give medical advice. Studies on the autism and Tylenol link have been inconclusive. This has been going around for quite some time. There's even been lawsuits almost started, none that like went through. They like had this big hearing on how they were going to Layla, no, no, cut it out. I'm sorry about that. They had this big hearing on whether or not, like, they had a panel of doctors. This was just recently, I believe at the beginning of this year. If you weren't aware of this was a legitimate thing. There was a class action lawsuit that called for the government to have a hearing with doctors on the panel. And I believe they like deemed the evidence as inconclusive, for this exact same thing. And the Trump administration didn't explain the motive mechanism. And a lot of you might be like me and be like, okay, so you're saying that this causes that, but how? If you know that it causes that or that it can, how? And this is what I learned years ago. Okay. And I am not saying this is true. I am not saying this is medical advice. I am not a doctor. Tylenol, acetaminophen, the active ingredient, depletes glutathione. Glutathione is a master antioxidant in your body. You use it to process like everything, literally everything, like especially free radicals. It is very important, okay? And if you are depleted on glutathione, like so much could go wrong. I am not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. It's just so annoying, and there's, like, different forms of glutathione. The best form would be to get it straight in an IV, ideally, but, like, most of us peons can't, do that, like, just for the hell of it, just because we feel bad or whatever. But that's one of those things they'll put in the cocktails when, like, they are trying to, like, pick somebody up. It'll be, like, vitamins, glutathione. In my opinion, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice. And, NAC is a form of glutathione. It's kinda like the bioactive, like, the form, doesn't need to be converted, just like folate is to folic acid, just like methylcobalamin is to, I forget the unmethylated version of B. I'm so sorry, I'm blanking. So anyways, the whole point is, like, these things have all been floating around in the autism community, including something that they started talking about later in the announcement. And I'm just going to say it right up front. Like, it's like, I'm glad it's getting out there. I remember saying this to my husband 10 years ago. One day they'll pay attention. One day they'll finally listen. One day, so many kids will be affected to the point that they're not going to be able to not listen. And like, this is like so much proof in your face. That's why it's like a known thing. Doctors, they used to call them Dan doctors, which is defeat autism now. And I understand the labels that say stuff like that. I totally understand, especially if you're an adult autist, like why that would be like kind of disturbing, like defeat. What do you need to defeat? I just hope that anybody from that perspective just try to remember these are parents of children who are nonverbal. These are parents of children who can't tell them when they hurt or what is wrong with them and when they need to use the bathroom. Like that's like if you're an adult autist who can, argue like why that upsets you, like, parents that are using doctors like that are just trying to get their kid to the point where they can be like you and, like, argue their opinions with people on the internet, like, when they don't agree with them, you know? And it's, like, just please try to, and yes, there are people who take it to the extreme, don't get me wrong, there's people who take it to the extreme and feed their kids a form of bleach, don't get me don't don't tie me up with those people, I never was one of those people, it was always, like, diets, a test for food allergies, food sensitivities, things like that. Never feed them bleach. No, no. Oh my gosh. Like, this just bothers me so much. Years ago, we were saying, don't take Tylenol during pregnancy. Years ago, over 10 years ago. And like I said, it was a thing well before that. It's not like we just pulled it out of our asses then. And oh my gosh, Trump mentioned how Cuba doesn't have Tylenol and has less autism. Of course, it cites nothing, cites nothing. And he also brings up the Amish, which get brought up a lot. And it's like, yeah, they have less rates of all diseases. Somebody in his like panel of experts said towards the end. But like, I mean, they also like don't go to the doctor unless they're like they absolutely have to, right? So like, and that's like an excuse people will bring up with like the rising rates in autism, which it like depending on where you look, they can be so different. Like they're going to be different from state to state, even. If this is such a big deal, we need to get our shit together and start like normalizing the way we look at the numbers or something. Like why don't we have a national statistic? It is a big deal, obviously. And you can chalk it up to um greater awareness, greater diagnostic ability, more diagnosing being done. And I understand where you're coming from with that. But as somebody who's been alive for almost 40 years, in my opinion, it seems like there are genuinely more children that can't talk. No, I don't think all these kids were like up in the attic like 20, 30 years ago. I don't. There's like a lot of kids in the last decade, especially, and it does seem to be getting progressively worse. I'm not God. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not saying anything for certain. These are my speculations. I know it is all anecdotal evidence. Okay. I can't stress that enough. But look it up. There's many things that deplete glutathione, by the way. It's not just Tylenol. And a lot of people were bringing up how Tylenol wasn't widely used till the mid 50s. It's been around till the late 1800s, but it wasn't really widely used. It was paracetamol, it wasn't made like Tylenol, the brand wasn't made till 1955, and that's when it started to be widely used. And then, the first autism diagnosis was something like 1944. So all that may be true, but like there's still other things that deplete glutathione. And autism, really, what is it? It's a group of symptoms thrown together, labeled as something. We can't look at the body, we can't do an x-ray, a blood test. There's no way to definitively diagnose it physically with anything tangible, right? And it's a group of symptoms thrown together. It could autism could be a few different things. A few different things could be autism. That's how I look at it, you know? And it's like this catch-all phrase. It's so easy for them to just like, I think a lot of things are going on with us and our children. A lot of chemical, environmental insults, a lot of epigenetics at play. Possibly, I'm not God, I'm not a doctor, but like this is why everything seems to be increasing, including allergies. Once again, I'm not a doctor, but it's like the doctors aren't like helping with this so much. The ones that are get labeled like crazy, and some of them are crazy, okay? Because like I said, there are some that are like, doing encouraging the like feeding and bleach thing. All right. Like I get that. That's bad. It is nice to hear that this administration wants to listen to mothers, that any administration does, because no medicine is one size fits all. And a lot of us have been screaming out for a long time now. And once again, I'm not saying anything about my kids, but I said I myself am in this group of injured people. So I was like so against it. I grew up somebody who considered themselves an expert in the field of autism, and they would make fun of autism moms that tried the diets and believed it was anything other than like purely genetic. And which is funny because they themselves met Bernard Rimland, the father of autism, the first psychologist to say this isn't just refrigerator parenting, this isn't just cold mothering, this is there's 2 causes in his and he I don't know at what point Bernard Rimland said this, but he said this. There's classic autism, meaning born with it, meaning like purely genetic. There's environmental autism, meaning usually regressive, or maybe I shouldn't say usually regressive and environmentally induced. Okay. So he had a son who he considered classically autistic, born with it. He knew he and his wife, especially his wife, had nothing to do with the way that their son was. And so he is no longer with us on this earth today, unfortunately. He founded the Autism Research Institute. You'll never hear about these things. You'll hear all about, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what is the light 'em up blue? The Autism Association, that's the biggest one in our country. If you weren't aware of that, it was started by somebody who's like really high up there in NBC. Like their daughter had a son who regressed after preventative medicine, and they started this foundation, and it's like the biggest foundation in our country. Light It Up Blue, the one that everybody talks about, but like most people aren't aware that it was started in honor of this injured boy. That's Dan Burton is a former representative of Indiana. He tried to speak out about it. But if you try to say, hey, maybe some kids are injured by this kind of medicine or something else, and they happen to have the same symptoms that you are also calling autism. It's so funny to me how people, it's not funny. It's not funny at all. People know what didn't cause autism. They know, but they can't tell you what can. Okay. It's really frustrating as a parent to have somebody come up with like a new theory every year. And it's like, yeah, I appreciate people like are trying, but to like for people to be like, oh, now it's the age of the mother, and the next year it's the age of the father, it's the age of the sperm, excuse me, and then microplastics. I think like there's so many factors, there's so many things. That's why it is increasing so rapidly, and it would do us well to like really study this. And I think there's reasons why they choose not to, because in my opinion, I think that there's enough control groups out there. And also, in my opinion, a lot of parents that you think might not be like giving their kids all the preventative medicines, they do. They just don't give them all of them on the schedule or all on the schedule the way that it is. And Trump encouraged that in this announcement. He said, to break them up. And he specifically goes into breaking the MMR up, which I found to be very interesting. I wish I would have already been talking about this, but once again, you get censored. The one video I made that was purely about vaccines got like taken down right away and copyright struck. It was ridiculous. And it wasn't even purely about it, but the one where I was like the most open about it. And I'm sorry, I'm starting to get all over the place. I just lost my train of thought. Breaking up the MMR. I always said, I think the elite people still can get it broken up. It used to be broken up and then they put it together, and that's when problems started. I don't like Andrew Wakefield. Don't even bring him up. He's a fraud. He's a phony. He like has fancy dinners with these rich, wealthy autism moms. He has them pay him a few $1,000s to go eat dinner with them and like tell them they're right about everything. Seriously, not wrong. And so I don't appreciate how everything comes back to him when, once again, like I just said, the father of autism, Bernard Rimland, very legitimate expert. He said, yeah, it can be environmentally induced, like read between the lines or whatever. But like we focus on Wakefield because he definitely was a freaking fraud who was fraudulent with his study. He faked data, he falsified data, he straight up falsified it, and he made us all look bad. And I think that was done on purpose. And if not done on purpose, the way it's so focused and like it always comes back to Andrew Wakefield, always comes back to Andrew Wakefield. There's so much more going on than that. And also, for decades now, people have bringing up folate. I'm so annoyed. The MTFHR gene mutation, okay? 23andMe used to do the MTFHR gene mutation test, and they took that away because so many autism parents in the biomedical community, that's what they used to call it like years and years ago, when you're like healing. Once again, it was like diets and stuff that's like just healing anyways. I don't want to give like details, but one of my kids, yeah, I'm not going to give any details like that. But anyways, the rising rates of neurodevelopmental disorders are all going up. It's not just autism, you know? And also MTFHR gene mutation, I'm so sorry. That involves needing methylated vitamins, hence the methylcobalamin, vitamin B instead of the cyanocobalamin. That's what the non-methylated version of vitamin B12, I believe, is. And then folate instead of folic acid. And some people will say, I don't know how true this is. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. Oh, I didn't say that. I'm like, nah, like, they say, like, even folic acid in your bread is bad, like, any added folic acid will be bad for your system, like, even if you are taking the good folate, that's just what I've heard. I don't think we were well, yeah, we were kind of strict with that, I guess, at a certain point, but, like, that's hard to be so strict to where you're, like, not even intaking foods that have folic acid in it. It will really make you eat, like, a really superb whole food diet. But yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. And yeah, 23andMe took that test for the MTFHR gene mutation away, I believe about 6 years ago, because they said that people shouldn't be using it, you know, to get medical. And I did order it because I did want to try it for my whole family, but I just didn't feel comfortable signing off our DNA forever to them to do whatever they wanted. They're like, we can use your DNA for any testing. And no, no. And I just err on the side of caution and get methylated vitamins because they're just going to be easier for your body to break down anyways. It's a more bioavailable form of vitamins. I am getting ready to get in the chat for anybody that is like desperate to prove me wrong or something. Halfway through this was like, gosh, was it an hour or 2 hour long? Was it an hour, 2 hours long? I forget. But halfway through, a female doctor said, all too often, it's easy to think that over the counter medicines are safe. And I thought that that was really interesting. And like I said, it's refreshing that this administration is bringing these things to light. But at the same turn, I have to acknowledge they're so divisive. Like half the country isn't even going to listen to them. And that's pretty disappointing. It's just going to be like, oh, yeah, of course they would bring up like autism having anything to do with like anything that's, even though I just spit, even though none of them can say what is causing it, you know? And once again, it like I understand like feeling like solving the puzzle, saying defeat autism now, how that could feel bad to somebody that's like, but I hope you can understand that like the parents that started these biomedical protocols, they saw their children in pain. A lot of these children have such gut issues where they're like constipated for weeks at a time. They know what it's like to see their child like in pain, struggling, in such pain they're banging their head against a wall or the nearest piece of furniture. Like it's the stuff that autism parents go through, and they briefly touched upon that. Like it, they have like PTSD likened to combat veterans, and I don't want to. I hope that doesn't just, offend anybody, but it really is like you never know when the next landmine's going to be, when the next bomb's going to drop. And it's not just you making it about you and your feelings. It's such a hard thing to witness a child go through it. And a lot of times in the last several years, I'm going to say something I feel like is horrible. I'm just going to say it. I see people talking about all these issues, pertaining like what you want to do with what's in your pants, cutting off like what's in your pants, like things like that. Like people are just like talking about like the small portion of the population and how important their rights are. And meanwhile, there's so many nonverbal autistic people that need help and are going to need help and are going to need help for the rest of their lives. And this one shorts I saw where this boy said, like, you don't really see that many older, severely autistic people. One reason is because their life expectancy is lower. And it's because the safety issues as well is like they can't tell you when something hurts, you know? Like my son couldn't tell me if he felt pain, if he had a hernia that wasn't sticking out. And We need to start helping our kids. And I just thought it was really interesting how Trump said to break up the MMR. I don't think any one of us regular schmegular people could go just request a broken up MMR, measles, mumps, rubella vaccines. I think that's something only you elite people can do. And I've had a feeling that that was the case for quite a while. I bet they do it with the DTaP too. I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not giving any medical advice. I don't want to be responsible for anybody anything. I think that I think that that was good advice what Trump gave. I will say that, but I'm not saying it's my advice, but I will agree with it that like you can't go wrong. Like and it's just okay, I'm gonna stop. I was gonna say, and then they make them just look at what you had when you were a child and like think about it. Like there's we pressure people into this rigorous schedule, and like half of the stuff on the schedule probably wasn't even on there when the people pressuring you got theirs. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. That's all I have to say about that. And Trump really said, like, don't give baby Tylenol too at the end. I thought that was also a good advice. A glutathione depleter, once again, it depletes glutathione, a master antioxidant. Other things deplete glutathione too. So this makes sense why maybe like it had been a thing before the mid 50s, but since the mid 50s, it's steadily increased because that's when Tylenol came onto our market and really started paracetamol started widely being used. That's what it was called. I guess acetaminophen is the active ingredient. And I guess I said everything in my notes. Now it's time to get into the chat. White pepper. I do not know anything about PTR91. No. Is that a YouTube channel? They're not getting enough attention because of the why. You think so, HK? I don't do well with acetaminophen. Luther said, you already know that you're like sensitive to it. Yeah, it'd probably be good to stick to. I'm not giving you medical advice, but like we just do ibuprofen around here. Hey, Pyramid, how are you tonight? State funds are for productive projects, right, Vernon? And that's the thing. And I know you're not saying that they don't deserve the help, but it's just like so many people that like need so much care and I can't help but think if they know, like, the neurodevelopmentally different people are the reasons why they're making, like, more laws against homelessness and stuff, and I know, like, you're gonna be, like, thinking I'm, like, the weirdest conspiracy freak at the end of this. It's just, I think that there is a lot going on, and we have food dyes that are outlawed in Europe because they are known to cause behavioral issues. I do not think that that hasn't I don't think that causes autism. That's, like, ADD behaviors and like hyperactivity and stuff. But it just makes you think if they know that about those ingredients, what else could be happening? Like a reason why a lot of people go gluten and dairy free is because there is gluten attaches to receptors in your body. I read this in a book. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice, and it's called glutopiates. And it's like it in some kids that are sensitive will make them act like "Whoa," like I think my kid does that, but I don't know for certain. I haven't ever had a blood test for him to see if he is intolerant or sensitive, and that's another thing, we had, the traditional food sensitivity allergy test where they just take blood and look at it and look for antibodies in it, and then we had ALCAT where they took a lot more blood and they literally, like, put the blood and the food dye, what have you, together and see what happens, and anyways, I think that there is a lot to be said about that, but it also isn't that dependable, and you'll get told something different by each doctor that like it is hard to test for sensitivities because you could test every day a week in a row and find out different results. So I don't know what to believe, but that LCAT seemed pretty legit to me. So that's like you see what happens in the body, right? And there's a lot more that I could say. I just feel like I just can't go there on my channel. It's unfortunate. Luther, but they're also defunding inspectors and making it so the companies can get away with whatever they want, toxic chemicals or not. Yes, right. There's like for every good thing Trump does, he does something bad too, right? Luther, oh my gosh, like all the train derailments and things. Like in my opinion, that had a lot to do with the deregulations that Trump did when he was president. So I totally get it. Hey, Jesus, how are you? I know nothing about GUNs and was against them for most of my life. Nowadays, I'm pro Second Amendment. Why don't you just go start a GUN channel, HK? So, yeah, I wanted to get my thoughts out about this and just get that if anybody is interested in the motive mechanism, because I know I always am, and they seem to like leave that part out because like because we didn't go to school for an extra 7 years, like MDs, like we can't like be told. And I know certain things would probably go way over my head, but those are the best doctors I've ever known. Like they were good about like explaining things, and people attribute it to Albert Einstein, but then I've heard it's not a legitimate Albert Einstein quote. But it's like if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Is kind of a cool saying, and so anyways, yeah, I've learned a lot about the body and it's only helped and I've only benefited from learning and becoming an advocate. I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice though. And it really does start at home. The nutrition. I believe my son, who is the most spectrumy, he, I think, had some kind of mineral or vitamin deficiency. And when I give him certain minerals, particularly, I notice like we have this good night mineral blend that's like zinc, magnesium, Epsom salt baths. Like he will say more, he'll repeat more. He's not conversational yet, but he's definitely saying words and repeating things and he's getting there and you can tell he's excited. It's just like when a toddler learns how to talk. He is 8. And I don't love talking about my children, but at the same time, like I said before, he is so delayed. Like it is what it is. And I hope to be sharing more and more with you on here. He has said some things that like have been like little celebrations. Like just in the last few weeks, he started to put 2 or 3 words together because before it was just always one word at a time. And now he's saying words, like walk the dogs. And so that's really nice. And that's the thing, it does magnify so much. It's like raising people on the spectrum, especially moderate to severe, like him. Not to compare it, I just know what it's like. I know what it's like. And one time I had a friend, she actually like did me a favor. I'll never forget this. It was so sweet of her. She's like, I actually think it might be harder in a way to have a kid that's like slightly affected because like people are gonna like discredit it and just like gloss over, be like, oh, he's not severe, so and that was years ago that she said that to me, but I thought that was so sweet of her. It was actually my friend who had a kid that was going through chemotherapy. So many people during times with my kids would say this. Don't say this to any autism parent. Please don't say the following. Some people don't bring their babies home from the hospital. I just want to say that. And can we all stop making fun of autism and like using it as the next retard, like using it as a slur? Because we wouldn't do that with anything else that people are getting diagnosed with in mass. I'm really tired of it like being like the tism slur and everything. It really is like a knife in my heart. And I like if you take pleasure out of like hearing an autism mom say that, like then you're a demon as far as I'm concerned. We really need to cut that out for the sake of the people that can't talk. We need to speak up for the people that can talk. And you're a coward if you make fun of people who don't have a voice, because that's who you're really making fun of, the most severely autistic of the autistic people. And you're a coward if you do that. They're such an easy target because they can't say anything back to you. And okay, I'm sorry. Rivik, you have a ton of knowledge on this issue, and thank you for being willing to talk about it. Oh, thank you for listening. I'm starting the goat cheese. That sounds nice. I would definitely want some like dried cranberries and honey with it. Tree hugger. Kudos to Trump for bringing autism awareness. I agree, tree hugger. Regretfully, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I just think like a lot of people won't listen that should listen, because it's Trump, because it is coming from Trump and his administration. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, yeah, of course they would say that conspiracy theory nonsense. It's been a thing for decades. I have books. Oh my gosh. I am so mad I don't remember his name. I might have to go grab these books. This man in the early 80s had a son, and he was a TV producer, film producer. Him and his wife had a few kids. They had a son, was different than the rest of their kids. They knew right away. And they had these methods they did with him. They like spent hours giving him intensive therapy in their bathroom because it was the most like blank space in their home, and they concentrated on diets. They went on and on about the diet. Ron Kaufman. And his son, who they implemented all those early interventions with, is now going around telling people about what it's like to be autistic. So it's like people have been saying, hey, like these diets help. It vitamins, folate, maybe forms of vitamins and minerals. It might be that. And my very autistic son. He, like, projectile vomited so badly that when the pediatrician saw it at a well check, she's like, "We need to get him x-rayed. He might have pyloric stenosis." And he didn't, thankfully, but, like, he really did. It was like he threw up more than he ate. I'm sorry if that's gross to people, I'm sorry, but he was gaining weight beautifully, so that's weird. How does that happen? And I just can't help but think, like, something was going on then, or that might have triggered something. But anyways, I'm not gonna get into, like, every single one of his milestones or whatever, but if you have a, like, nonverbal person in your life, my heart goes out to you. I know how difficult it can be. I also know how absolutely joyous it can be, and I try to focus on the positive. Like, he's a healthy kid overall, and, I'm confident he'll do a lot of catching up, but, like, at this point, yeah, it is difficult to not know about the future of your child in the economy we have now and everything going on right now with, healthcare and just everything. So it's nice to see some attention being brought to it. I'm going to invest in Tylenol now. All the lefties will be eating them like candy just to spite Trump's sesamoids. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Oh, absolutely. I know he's so concerned about my 8-year-old autistic son and how he may be treated and can't speak up about it. Tony, I'm sorry if you told me that before, Tony. I don't remember that. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. So you know exactly what it feels like, right? And that's about the age, at least, 6 to 8 for me is when it really is like, okay, like he really is like very delayed, like what is his future going to be like? And is he ever even going to be able to catch up? And excuse me, another hurdle we've had, I started the evaluation process when he was 4 years old in Indiana. Like I'm just I say things that I regret, but, like, biggest regret of my life was, like, I stopped that process because at the time I was like, "Oh, we'll just, like, finish it in Kentucky," and when we moved here, we got put on a wait list for a appointment in 2027. It's already been, like, over a year we've been on that. What? So I kept asking and asking and asking. I think I did share this. I kept asking, and open school night for my teenage son. I kept asking people at these booths, and this one lady was like, "Ask so and so over there." I asked, and they're like, "Oh, this place," and I found a place in Bowling Green. So it's like, why didn't anybody else? The place in Louisville that had us waiting for years. Why didn't they know about the place in Bowling Green? I've been asking everybody. His pediatrician, because his pediatrician had to give us a referral. Why didn't they know about any other place than Louisville? And like, why? Oh, it's so frustrating. And this is something like they should all know about each other. That shouldn't have happened like that. So I haven't done it yet, but I tell myself every day, like I need to call and like three elementary schools. I was asking if anybody knew of any other place to get an evaluation for him done. None of them knew about this place in Bowling Green. I don't get it. DB Cooper, no, I'm not in recovery. No. I've been honest, like I have I used to smoke weed before when I was younger, like kind of a lot, but and I take kratom now, but I don't take a lot of kratom, but I want to stop kratom and then I will be in recovery. I'm not, it's not funny. I want to laugh. It's stupid. Don't take kratom. It is addictive, and it's not even like I feel it anymore. I take just like a gram at a time, less than a gram at a time, whatever like half a teaspoon is. And it's still like I just have to do it to not feel bad. And I've never taken a substance that was like that before. And yeah, there's a lot of people that are saying it's like it's not addictive, it's a good alternative, it's a good painkiller. It's not a good thing to have in your life unless you seriously like can keep it to like a once a every now and then kind of thing. Oh, Jose, I know hablo español. Okay, well, I think that I've said everything that I wanted to say, and I'm going to end this. I'm kind of tempted to hop back on and just have, I don't know. Tony, are you a member, Tony? Are you in the members? I think you are. Is the circle with the star? Why am I asking you? Because the blue circle with the star means members, right? Pyramid, you're not a member. I wish I wish I could make people members, you know what I mean? Like, I should be able to do that. But I guess that would make sense YouTube wouldn't let you do that because they want people to spend the money. You are, um, okay. Well, I'm gonna hop back on here in a minute, okay? I wanna close this out so it's like a half an hour long about this subject, and I appreciate I didn't look at the chat for most of it, but I appreciate you guys being nice. I want to end it on this. I'm not a medical doctor, and this is not medical, was not medical advice. Love you. Bye.